So, coming up on tonight's show, Jess Gil and GB News. One crime too many, or one lie too far. The truth behind Jess Gil's migrant claims. Starmer and Macron strike a deal. You take one, we take one. Starmer's board a deal that solves nothing. And Berry leaves the bunch. Britain is broken, says the man who helped to break it. Jake Berry's wild pivot to reform. As always, remember to like the stream, and if you're not a subscriber, please hit that button. So we'll be getting to your comments at the end, so please make sure you're busy in the chat. But first, we shall go to our first story. So last week, so-called women's safety campaigner Jess Gil from the Women's Safety Initiative appeared on GB News declaring that the national emergency of violence against women and girls is caused by foreign nationals, both illegal and legal ones, according to her. Let's have a look.
Illegal immigrants are 24 times more likely to commit crimes than native Brits. And when it comes to even legal immigrants, I believe it's illegal immigrants are 24 times more likely to commit crimes than native Brits. And when it comes to even legal immigrants, I believe it's 3.4 times more likely to commit crimes than native Brits, sex crimes in particular than native Brits. I mean, I think one crime is far too many, one sex crime is far too many, and we can see it in our streets. Women and girls don't feel comfortable, walking home, they don't feel comfortable getting the train or the bus home, and even if they get a taxi, there is no guarantee for their safety. And the elephant in the room here is that it's because of illegal immigration. And we can see the epitome of this is the grooming gangs, where hundreds of thousands of girls across the country have been they had to deal with the most horrific crimes imaginable. They were raped, they were groomed, they were abused, they were chained to radiators by many dozens of men per victim. I think this is absolutely horrific.
What about Krish's argument there that if you look at overall sexual assaults and offences, organised rape gang activity is a small share of the overall number of sexual assaults?
I think different crimes need to dealt with differently, and I think what we're dealing with now is an imported crime. I think it's 1 in 4 sex crimes are committed by foreign nationals. That means 1 in 4 sex crimes didn't have to happen. They only happened because of this extremist mass immigration policy that we've had over the past few decades. That's the reality of it. And I agree, we shouldn't dismiss, other types of crime. But at the same time, these men coming over here, they're acting a certain way because of where they've come from, because of the cultures that they've come from, and because of, quite frankly, racism towards white people, these white girls, which they, see as sluts and whores, through their own words.
She claimed, without scrutiny, that illegal migrants are 24 times more likely to go to prison than Brits, and that legal immigrants are 3.4 times more likely to commit sex crimes. She even said these men are acting in a certain way because of where they've come from, because of racism towards white girls. Let's stop right there, because that's not quite right, is it? And none of this adds up when you actually look at the data. Those 24 times more likely claims, they're based on a deeply flawed comparison. And it's a Tory party lie that has allowed for right-wing press to push untruths. Using 2025 prison population numbers against outdated 2021 census data. So that's like comparing apples to oranges. New arrivals since 2021 weren't counted, so of course the prison rate looks exaggerated. And Full Fact goes on to state, but based on the details reported, the figure for how much more likely channel migrants are to go to jail is not reliable. Most notably, that's because the estimate compares 2025 prison data to 2021 population figures that are likely out of date and appears to use data on the imprisonment of foreign nationals in general, without considering whether people of a specific nationality who arrived via small boat crossing may be more or less likely to go to prison than their compatriots overall. Some of the detail in the report last week were also not accurate. After being contacted by Full Fact, the Mail Online corrected a line in its story claiming that official data showed a whopping 3.4%, that's 1 in 30, small boat migrants end up behind bars. Now, even the Home Office itself has stated that the comparison of these two data sets is completely unfounded. It is inappropriate to apply foreign imprisonment rates to small boat arrival data. Now, worse still, this so-called analysis confused foreign nationals with asylum seekers, as if all Somalians, Afghans and Albanians in prison came here on dinghies. They didn't. Some have lived here for years, and others were arrested while visiting. So, conflating nationality with immigration status, it's not just misleading, it's deliberate fear-mongering. And that 3.4% of small boat migrants end up behind bars figure? Well, let's unpack that one, shall we? It's false. The publication that printed it had to issue a correction, and the University of Oxford Migration Observatory confirms that there's no reliable public data on how many small boat migrants go to prison. Now, here's a real stat. At the end of March this year, about 0.14% of British citizens were in prison versus 0.18% of foreign nationals. A difference? Yes. A crime wave? Props not. Now, let's get to our most dangerous claim, that this violence is being imported. Here's what she says. She states that 1 in 4 sex crimes are committed by foreign nationals. The figure is based on a Freedom of Information request submitted by the Centre for Migration Control, a right-wing Tuffin Street think tank. And the problem is that we only have their word that this is what the figures say, and there's a lot of clarification that's needed. Is a foreign national in this data set anyone who was born abroad, or are dual citizens counted among this number? It makes a big difference if we're talking about Somali refugees or dual Irish citizens who've lived in the UK their whole lives, which is a much, much bigger problem, much bigger population, excuse me. The figures are likely being inflated by the Centre for Migration Control, but we just have no way of verifying it. They're asking us to trust their figures, and we at Turn Left simply do not. But even if we believe their questionable statistics, if it is the case that 1 in 4 sex crimes are committed by foreign nationals and we did deport them, it still wouldn't solve the 3 in 4 sex crimes committed by British nationals. You're not solving the issue, Jess. Are you then implying that 3 in 4 sex crimes aren't worth our attention? Really? No sex crimes should be happening. So spouting this stat means that you're still not addressing the issue. Most people think that the issue with sex crimes is the crime and not the nationality of the perpetrator. If this was truly about foreign men, why do official stats show that 83% of child sexual abuse defendants in the UK are white British? Does that not call into question these dodgy think tank statistics? Why are most sex crimes committed by men the victims already know, not strangers in taxis, but partners, exes, and relatives? Jess Gil invoked the grooming gangs scandal, saying hundreds of thousands of girls were abused. But again, that number has no credible basis. Even the person who floated it admitted it was unreliable guesswork, and multiple inquiries have confirmed that the true national scale is simply unknown. Violence against women is a national emergency, but it's not an imported one. Cog, I'd like to bring you in. Why do you think the media, particularly ones based on the right, are so willing to amplify discredited stats like this without challenge?
I will answer your question. However, I do have to warn people that I am currently being kicked out of the studio by our software. So if I disappear, I will be back in a few seconds. It's just for some reason, while Callum was giving his monologue, I was kicked out about 5 times from the studio, and I am so pissed off with the studio at the moment. Our software is terrible. I'm so sorry.
Tonight's show just wasn't supposed to happen, was it?
Okay.
So why is it that you think the media are willing to amplify these discredited stats without challenging them?
I think that they are willing to amplify those stats.
And there he goes. See, it was always going to happen. The second we come on and we do a show, things like this always take place. But that's fine. While Cog is taking his little break, if you don't follow us already, if you don't subscribe, hit the subscribe button and make sure you're in the comments.
I'm gonna fucking as soon as I started talking, my God.
So Cog, what are your thoughts?
So it's the reason that they amplify this stuff. It's not about convincing outsiders to change their minds, but it's about convincing people who already watch GB News, who are already bought into the narratives that migrants are bad and dangerous, that they're very smart for already thinking this, right? It's not about convincing us, because we understand and we can look at these statistics and go, hang on, loads of these statistics don't add up. And the ones which might add up, you won't actually show us because you won't release the Freedom of Information request in its entirety. Yeah. But it's the hiding behind violence against women and girls that really does it for me, right? It reminds me of the way that Zionists use anti-Semitism, which is like a real and pervasive issue in the UK and across Europe. Because they know that liberals in the media are more hesitant to challenge them on issues when they hide behind a minority group. It's why leftists really have to be strong and cut through the bullshit, start consistently calling them out on this nonsense. Like, start calling them out and going, no, you can't actually hide behind a minority to attack, like, trans people or to support genocide in Palestine. Now, you stand on your guns or we will just shoot down your statistics. It's that simple. It's how billionaires ultimately distract us from the fact that we have more in common with these immigrants and refugees than we'll ever have with billionaires. And they've got more in common with, like, the Saudi Arabian, the Saudi Arabian royal family than they'll ever have with a common British person, somebody who, was born and raised here, or a refugee who came here on a small dinghy from Yemen, say, fleeing that same Saudi regime. Like, Jess Gil isn't here to reduce violence against women and girls. Jess is here to exploit violence against women and girls to make weak people feel.
And you've gone again. But I completely agree with what you're saying. And I think for those of you that haven't seen it, when she makes this 1 in 4 claim, she also says that means that 1 in 4 sexual crimes didn't have to happen. Somehow implying that the other 3 in 4 did. I was just explaining, Cog, while you were gone, that the comment that she made about, but that means that 1 in 4 sexual crimes against women didn't need to happen, as if the other 3 in 4 like did have to happen. It's like, yes. Why aren't you advocating for the, also if like I said in the intro to this, if that stat is true, and if we are to believe that stat, why are you not more angry that 3/4 of sexual crimes against women in the UK are committed by British men? Why is that not the thing that makes you angry? Why are you not angry about the biggest threat, which is British men? Why are you focusing on the small, the small group rather than the bigger group? Because actually, if we could stop 3/4 of sexual crimes against women from happening, that will be a hell of a lot of a better step forward in the right direction than just stopping 1 in 4, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, it's about making those people, the weak people who, like, support this migrant bashing, feel justified in hating refugees because they've got no other outlet. She's like their emotional support bigot, right? That's her purpose. It's emotional support bigotry, so they don't have to change their minds and challenge their worldviews. Like, I think. Go on.
No, I was just going to ask you, Cog, what are the dangers of weaponizing women's safety, to push anti-migrant narratives?
Well, like, real organisations that do real action against violence against women and girls can tell the difference. Like, if you're serious about tackling violence against women and girls, there are things that you can do to tackle this disproportionate violence that women and girls face from men. And they're things like positive bystander intervention, right? The 5 Ds of positive bystander intervention: distract, document, direct, delay, and delegates. You delegate it onto somebody else. That's if you witness violence against women and girls. You're supposed to do all of those things. You can teach people nonviolent communication. You can look into something like the Good Lad Initiative, which is a charity that runs workshops to reduce violence against women and girls. It runs them with young men, and they're like outcome-based workshops. But these organisations can tell the difference. So the chances of it impacting actual violence against women and girls is actually very minimal. The minority in danger from this rhetoric is, like, primarily refugees who are crossing the channel, who are, like, extraordinarily in danger of having, like, violence whipped up against them. Like, stochastic violence, the risk of stochastic violence against these groups is quite real. But that makes it even more vital that we normalise being strong in our pushback. everyone should know that most people convicted of sexual violence against women and girls, I almost said sexual violence because TikTok, of sexual violence against women and girls are white British offenders, but overwhelmingly they are men, right? The people I worry about are people like Sarah al-Hashimi, who died after her boat collapsed in the Channel last year, right? Her father fled Iraq after militia started threatening her life. All her dad wanted for her was that her and her sisters should go to school somewhere safe. That's what he said after she passed away. She was 7 years old. A 7-year-old child dying in the Channel like that, and it barely gets a mention. And it's all about the numbers. It's all about stop the boats. Like Sarah, like what I care about is Sarah should have gone to school, and we want to create a world where she had a safe future. Let's hear some more about the safety of those women and girls.
Yeah.
That's while you're going on to the next story. I am going to try and reboot my computer, and hopefully I'll be back to do the commentary. But I might have missed some of what you've said. I'm so sorry. I'm going to try rebooting.
Don't worry about it.
See if that helps.
It's fine. Well, yeah, I think we will move on. So, onto our second story. We're going to stick to the topic of migration, actually. So, after years of chaos, court battles, and photo ops on beaches of all places, we finally have a migration deal between Britain and France. Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron have agreed a so-called one-in, one-out arrangement. It sounds like an elaborate dance, but apparently they're doing it with people. What this deal means on paper is that for every small boat migrant the UK sends back to France, we'll accept one asylum seeker through an official route. Sounds balanced, right? But here's what they're not telling you. Under the pilot scheme, Britain will return just 2,600 people a year. That's around only 6% of channel crossers. In other words, 94% will still stay. And the most hilarious part is that this same kind of deal was floated by the Tories back in 2023, but they couldn't get it through. So what changed? Well, Starmer scrapped the Rwanda deportation scheme, which France and the European Union hated. And he's also pledged to clamp down on illegal working in Britain, a key French concern. They've long argued that the UK's shadow economy acts like a magnet, offering under-the-table jobs and zero enforcement. And the price tag is that France is demanding even more UK funding for coastal police drones and sea patrols. The last government already gave £480 million over 3 years. Now, Macron wants more. Meanwhile, French officials are reportedly worried their own courts might block this entire plan, especially the policy of intercepting boats 300 metres from shore. So we've got a deal, but it's hanging by a thread, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. Cog, what do you think this deal between Britain and France means? What are we moving towards here? I mean, it feels like asylum seekers, human beings, are being treated as mere bargaining chips.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just setting up my stuff. I just turned my fan off as soon as it's so hot in this room. So I think what this is heading towards is basically an acknowledgement that it's weak sauce from liberals who have spent their career punching left so hard that they are now unable to stop the blows that are coming from the right. And this has only made it worse, right? This whole facade of being tough on migration will fold like a deck of cards the moment that Farage or Le Pen get involved, because the narrative they're building has no backbone behind it. It's got no support structure. No one thinks these people are tough on migration. So the little good that they're able to do in terms of creating a returns agreement and creating a very, very limited, we're talking 50 people a week, safe route, can be undone like that as soon as the next government takes power. That's what we're building towards. This is why people should abandon these identikit, interchangeable suits that we call politicians, and stand up for a real left-wing alternative. The left wing isn't afraid to call this shit out. The left isn't shy to make the positive case for refugees and migration. And once popular support is behind them, it's that much harder for the right wing.
And we've lost you again, but I agree. Sorry, I'm just having producer Lewis in my ear. Just bear with me 1 second, guys. Say again, Lou. It might be helpful, but he's in and out.
My
We've got him
God.
back anyway.
So-
We're just debating whether or not we should switch you out for Lewis, but we'll see.
I don't know that that'll help.
We'll see. I wanted to ask you though, Cog, how does this deal compare to Rwanda? I mean, on the surface, it's depicting itself as a more humane option, but are we just outsourcing control again with just language that's more digestible?
So, despite the kind of lack of comparative cruelty, it's still all about deterrence, right? Starmer has said that the scheme won't be open to anyone who's tried to get here by small boat first. So it's them trying to deter people, but that doesn't work. And Keir Starmer is setting up his excuses. Apparently, he said that it was that they're up against a multi-billion-pound enterprise run by criminal gangs, which can't be the case because if they had billions of pounds, they'd be invited to conferences of both our.
And we've lost you again. Yeah. It's going to be one of these lives, I'm afraid, everybody. It's what happens. I've no idea. Maybe it's the heat. We can blame it on global warming, I think. Yeah, I'm sure Cog will be back, but I think we should probably just move on because we're going to be fighting with this otherwise. If you are enjoying the stream, then please like and subscribe. Just to remind viewers, if you've not seen us before and this is the first time you've seen us, firstly, we do have tech issues, but never normally like this. We are just 5 volunteers. We don't get paid for this work. One day we would love for this to be our full-time jobs, and we can invest in a proper studio space, better internet connections, and a software that isn't going to boot out our guests mid-conversation. So if you can, please do consider becoming a supporter. You can do that by going to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. There you can become a monthly patron, or there is another link on there for a one-off donation as well. Of course, you can also become a YouTube member for just 99p. And I've just said all that bit as well. We are also looking at the moment, we're aiming to reach an income of £1,500 a month, just to help with ongoing costs so that we can continue to bring you more content as well. So again, if you can, please consider becoming a supporter. But don't worry, if money's tight, there's many other ways that you can support us as well. You can subscribe to the channel, you can comment, you can like, and you can share our content here on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky. I think we're on Facebook as well. So, on to our final story. Well. Yeah, it has happened again. Another name has walked out on the Conservatives, and it's Jake Berry. Oh, sorry. Apparently it's Sir Jake Berry, former party chairman, Northern Powerhouse minister, and Boris Johnson loyalist. Yes, that Jake Berry, the man who's held ministerial office in every department short of MI5, has officially defected to, you've guessed it, Reform UK, joining Nigel Farage's insurgent populist campaign with a press release that reads more like a manifesto. Now, according to Berry, the Tories have, quote, lost their way, abandoned the British people, and, in case you missed the headline, broken the country. Ouch. Now, to be fair, he's not exactly wrong that the last few governments left things in tatters. I mean, we've been saying it for a while. But hate to break it to you, Berry, you were part of that. You were in the party at the time. So when he says our streets are lawless, migration is out of control, and taxes punish ambition, it begs the question, were you asleep at the wheel, Sir Jake? Or just hoping no one would notice until you lost your seat? And yes, he did lose that seat, in case you were wondering, in 2024, which makes this conversion to Farageism conveniently timed. Still, from a strategy perspective, maybe it's a win for reform. Berry brings name recognition, organisational knowledge, and crucially, the media headlines that Farage thrives on. That's 2 former ministers now in Reform's column, alongside ex-Welsh Secretary David Jones. And it shows that this isn't just protest politics anymore. It's a vacuum that's being filled. And what's Labour doing while all this unfolds? Probably praying that Reform and the Tories keep cannibalising each other. But the real question is, does this make Reform look more serious or just more like a retirement home for ousted Tories? Cog, if we can keep you for more than 30 seconds, what's next? More defections, full-blown realignment on the right, or just one man trying to get back into Parliament before the curtain drops on them? Oh, look at that. Perfectly timed again. You know, I absolutely adore this channel, and the community that we've built is fantastic. So I'll just take this opportunity to say a fantastic and heartfelt thank you to all of you who continue to support us despite days like this. I
Easy
promise
marks.
it's not me.
Count your fucking days. Jesus Christ, you software bastards. So sorry, guys. So this is the age of populism, right? You can't win by defending the status quo anymore. The thing about the Emperor's New Clothes is that once everybody's seen them, the game is up. And the Tories had 14 years to give their Emperor's New Clothes a go. Everyone could see that their ideas didn't work. And they were totally naked for those 14 years, and everything kept going wrong. Everything got worse. It's obviously ridiculous to say that the problem is that they didn't bash migrants hard enough, they didn't do enough tax cuts or benefit cuts. If it didn't work the first time, why would you assume, Jake, that it would work if you just do the same thing but harder? No, this is somebody who's lost all sense of direction, right? He doesn't know where he's going, and so the instinct is just to, okay, we'll just keep swinging to the right. And I looked at a statement by his local party that was quoted by Guido Fawkes, the extreme right-wing website. And they say that he was barely engaged with his local party, and he's never really recovered from the downfall of Liz Truss. A lot of this is them flailing about and trying to deny what happened. Denial is not just a river in Egypt, right? This is all about pretending that your bad solutions will work if you just keep doing them harder. It doesn't work like that. I'm going to shut up before I get kicked off again.
It's fine. It's absolutely fine. No, I completely agree. I mean, it is interesting, isn't it, that he's waited until, he's lost his seat. There's been a bit of time, and now it's like, hey guys, I'm here to join Reform UK. I mean, do you think that Reform will become the next Conservative Party? I mean, there's been more questions this week about Kemi Badenoch's leadership of the Conservatives. They can't oust her. The earliest they can put in a motion of no confidence against her is, I think, November, because she has to have been in position for 12 months before they can do that. It's probably coming, but do you think that the Tories have a way out, or do you think that this is clever politics for ex-Conservative ministers and others to jump across to Reform at this point?
I think the Reform are going to take over the Conservative Party just as surely as this software is going to kick me out in a few minutes. It's almost a cast iron guarantee. And the reason that it's a cast iron guarantee is that this is the age of populism. The status quo, you can't win by defending it. If you make your opponent defend the status quo, you win in 2025. That is what the left needs to do, whether that's Zara Sultana or Zach Polanski. The left needs to make their opponents defend the status quo. And by doing that, you've got to step outside of the Starmer, Rishi Sunak, even Kemi Badenoch, identikit politics, where you just you pretend to be right wing, but a little bit softer and in a suit. No, you've got to get real with it. You've got to get real with your left wing politics as an actual alternative that helps the everyday working costs of ordinary British people. That's how you win in 2025.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been I can't remember the name of them, but there's been a group formed within the Labour Party this week as well, a pressure group that are focusing on issues like cost of living and energy bills and poverty and welfare and, the price of bread, to try and sort of put pressure on Starmer and those at the top to actually shift the focus a bit and actually focus on the things that we're all actually affected by, like our increases in bills. Do you think that'll have an impact? Do you think that'll work and work in Labour's favour? Or do you think it's just going to embolden Reform to say, actually, they're trying to be like us, and if you want us, then just vote for us?
Yeah, I think focusing on cost of living, not a bad thing at all. The problem is that Starmer isn't going to be moved over on the cost of living because he's part of this Blairite identikit politics where you win by finding where the centre ground is, even if it's way off to the right of where it was 15 years ago. That is how you win, and you stick your flag down in the middle of where the centre ground is. You don't really believe anything. If you want to win now, you've got to believe in things. You've got to believe in things that resonate with ordinary people, and you've got to put those ideas across in a way that comes across as strong, and like you're not about to just change your mind because a polling company has come out with a new poll that says the opposite position is better. Like, we want politicians that believe in things.
Yeah, we really do. What does Nigel Farage believe in?
I think that Nigel Farage believes in his interests. He believes in his class interests, certainly. But he believes in the politics of the right wing. And the thing is I hate to give him credit, but Nigel Farage has actually taken positions that are kind of unpopular and made them popular. Like, he's won people over, and the left needs to look at doing this more.
Can you give an example of that? Are you thinking Brexit or?
Yeah, I was thinking Brexit, but a lot of like the anti-migrant stuff that like the BNP got like chided for in 2005 in 2025 is like regular everyday rhetoric, and a large part of that has to do with Nigel Farage and his ilk and the people surrounding him working day in, day out to talk about migrants and migration and refugees non-stop, 24 hours a day. The left should be talking about the cost of living in the same way, be talking about class, should be talking about the issues facing like working class people in the UK today, talking about like rent controls, talking about your rights at work. Everything that the right does in terms of migration, the left should be looking to match that amplification in all of the issues that really matter for everyday working British people. Like, that's what we should be looking towards.
Yeah, well, hopefully we will start to get it from more of our left-wing politicians. We'll have to see. I think before we lose you again, I think we should go to our producer and start taking a look at some of your comments.
Yes.
I'm sure there's plenty to go through today.
I can.
We can now.
Hello, everyone. Can the audience hear me before we lose Cog one more time?
Yes. Oh my god.
Oh, well, what a interesting show. I think it's either the billionaire tech people trying to silence us, Mossad, or maybe you need to, as somebody suggested in the comments, point your fan towards instead of your face, maybe the computer.
The computer, yeah. I don't know if I've just seen a very funny super chat.
Well, we are about to get to those right now. So, firstly, I don't know if we've ever had somebody this big give this many, but Zeke the Beast gave us 20 memberships. I don't know if I've seen that many before, so thank you so much, Zeke, and welcome to everyone that was gifted. I'm curious, when people gift memberships, is it like, do they have to like click on it and then they select all the people in the chat? Is that how it works, or is it just like random? Like, how does it work? I actually don't know from like the user perspective. I'm really curious. Maybe. Oh.
No, it hasn't kicked.
You just couldn't write it, could you? Really
wow.
No.
Do I need to come? So yeah, Zeke gave us 20. So thank you so much.
Thank
Zeke,
you, Zeke.
Welcome to all the members. Carl, chipping in for a new Ethernet cable for Cog. Do you have the Ethernet cable in right now, Cog? Are you
Yeah, no, I've got. This is the thing. There's nothing wrong with my internet. Like, it's running everything else fine. It's just like I can play a game on here, and I know it'll be fine.
I wonder if it's that whole. So we should probably have this conversation off air. But the whole palaver that we had with a certain internet provider that was. I think I was
just about to explain this. So just to show you guys how temperamental this software is that we use, that we like, but we have a love-hate relationship with. Some of us one day just suddenly couldn't access it, and we couldn't figure it out. But once we figured out that we were all happened to be on the same internet service provider, their firewall was blocking it. So we had to like unblock it. It was a whole palaver, and just what a mess. What a mess. But thank you very much, Carl. Then
Thanks,
Jim
Carl.
Speak, lovely old Jim. You're not old. You're probably very young. Jim Speak gifted 5 turn left memberships.
Cheers, Jim.
And one of those memberships went to Donald Epstein's friend Trump.
That's brilliant. Whoever came up with that name.
Welcome, Donald Epstein's
Can I just
friend,
interrupt? I just want to say hi to Maximilian Robespierre, who's in the chat. Hello, friend of the show. Give Max a follow if you don't already subscribe to Max's channel. Give him a follow. It's really, really good commentary. Right, sorry, Lewis.
Hello, Matt.
What he said.
Michael gifted a membership. Hello, Michael.
Hi.
And Matilda Patio gifted a membership too. And we got a lovely super chat from Rachel, which is Cog is becoming a violent Luddite before our eyes.
I was. I am. I'm going to go and live in the woods, Rachel. Like, I've had enough of this. This computer is... well, actually, it's not the computer. I rebooted the computer. The computer's working fine. I checked the internet speed.
FMX.
Right, on to the first actual comment, which I think this is the most controversial comment of the show. Where are you, Tik Tok? Where are you?
Is anyone else cold? Just get out. Just go.
Yeah, like... I want to find out where you are, Tic Tac. Please take me there. I've got a little fan that I got off the Tik Tok Shop that's been pointed at me as soon as I get off air.
Is that one of those ones that is supposed to have the built-in aircon?
Yeah.
Does it actually work? Do I need to get on the TikTok shop and do a video about how good they are and make some money off it?
They're pretty good, but they're really loud. They're really loud.
Guys, are we being sponsored right now?
By TikTok
no, we're
Shop?
Not. Sorry.
No, I'm joking.
It's like a little hairdryer.
But if you go to Cog's TikTok account, you'll find the link below. No, I'm joking.
Well, they're not going to sponsor us after I say this, because TikTok Shop is so unregulated that you can actually buy merchandise on there which symbolises a certain German government from World War II.
Wonderful.
How do you know this, Lewis?
Because it's been suggested to me. Like, when it comes up, like, do you want these items on TikTok Shop? It shows you like a preview, and I'm like, wait, that's what I think it is, right? And it's not it's not how the Indians use the symbol. It's how the Germans use the symbol.
It's all those people that you're associating yourself with in TikTok Lives, probably.
That's it. It's the algorithm treating it to me.
I'm being deliberately vague there for legal reasons.
Going off on a tangent, but TikTok Shop needs regulating so badly.
TikTok needs regulating so badly. We could do a whole segment on that.
I always say, because if everybody doesn't know, like, one of the biggest rises right now in terms of political ideology is ANCAP, and these anarcho-capitalists. Every time I meet one of them, I'll say to them, "Go watch people selling stuff on TikTok Shop and tell me that capitalism doesn't need to be not only regulated but destroyed, because people will literally compromise every belief and moral that they have just to try and sell you a handheld fan." Yes, Cog, I'm looking at you. It's so bad how unregulated it is. But anyway, enough about
TikTok. We can't all make money off views, you know. We can't all do that.
But enough about TikTok anyway, because a lot of people don't use it. So, Noffel, Cog and Cal's luscious hair. Are you doing that? Are doing that job, Jim? We had a lot of comment about your guys' hair today. A lot of hair, like, yeah.
I'm fresh out of the shower. That's why.
Tic Tac wants you to flip your hair, Cal.
What, like, do we want like a? Do we want? Is it like? Am I doing a? Is it like a Galinda?
Willow Smith whip my hair back and forth style.
Oh, I don't know what that style is. I just know the
whip my hair back and forth.
But now I've not got any. No, I've not got any ears.
Lots of comments for Cog. That software's got it out for you. Poor Cog. And then Jim just put, you know what would be funny? Wait a few seconds. Okay, on to the actual news topic. So, Becca, that's why it's dangerous too, because they are trying to make us fear foreigners and trust white British men. Let our guards down, then we are even more vulnerable. I'm not going to reference where this debate was held because we've already mentioned the platform too much today, but I got into a debate on a platform a few months ago with a guy, I think he was from like Liverpool or something, and he was telling me how he only tells his daughter to fear foreigners, and she will be safe with like British men. He literally said that word for word. And I said to him, I don't have kids and I don't care in terms of invoking this. I literally said to him, you are setting your children up to be possibly sexually assaulted, because if you're only telling them to fear foreign men, you are giving them a false sense of security. And Becca's obviously invoked that in her comment, and somebody else mentioned that too, because that's what it does. It makes you feel like a sense of security around, you know, your own people and what they look like, and that leads to very vulnerable situations and very precarious situations.
Yeah.
Any more comments? Sorry, I didn't just want to have my own.
No, I agree. I can't really add anything to that.
Really liked a good comment from Edward as well. Hello, Mr. Edward Sexby, one of our most prolific commenters. So when I did A-level sociology, crime stats were always taught to be the most unreliable, dodgy, massaged and biased off pretty much any statistics you'll ever see. Comment, please.
Yes. I guess they are some of the.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I'll jump in. So yeah, one of the ways that it's easily not even just like mismanaged, but when you obviously, as most people constantly forget that we live in a democracy and you elect a police crime commissioner in your area, is that they often have focus areas, right? So if you've got a police and crime commissioner who's saying, "Oh, I'm going to really focus on drugs," then obviously when they focus on that, the welcome back, Hog, the data for the data for the amount of drug offences that they arrest is going to go up because they focused on it, and that's the problem as well that we have, is that the way things are policed, the focus areas, the way things are funded, structured, it skews data all over the place.
Yeah, we also have like the National Crime Survey as well, which is carried out for households. So it's random household selection, and then people are interviewed to talk about if they've been victims of any crimes and if they've experienced any crimes themselves, if they've witnessed crimes, and those statistics again, you're relying on people to speak up and tell you about them. And if somebody's been interviewed has been a victim of a crime but hasn't reported it, they may not want to talk about it. When somebody like me turns up at the door and says, "Hi, I'm here to ask you if you've been a victim of any crime. Would you talk to us for national statistics?" Many people are going to look at you and say, "No, thank you," because if they've not felt confident enough reporting it, then it's unlikely they're going to feel confident. I mean, I might be wrong, but it's unlikely they're going to feel confident talking to a complete stranger for the sake of national statistics as well. So, we do have to bear that in mind too, that there are definitely biases there, partly because of the nature of the statistics. But then you've also got, when people talk about crime stats, okay, are we talking about crimes reported? Are we talking about people that have been charged? Are we talking about people that have actually been convicted? Because those numbers are never the same. So, and given we know that something ridiculous, I can't remember the exact stat, one of you two might know, but it's something ridiculous, like 98% of rape cases go unreported, and about the same statistic of those that make it to court don't end in a conviction. Like, how can we positively say that any of the numbers that we see on this issue are even close to accurate when we also have stats like that?
The conversation that not many people ever get to, when it comes to, they're happy to kind of do this with like Muslims, right? When it comes to like, oh, let's not let any of men anymore. But when it comes to actual weaponizing data, nobody talks about what they actually want to do with it, right? So, for example, let's just say there was 95% white people in a country and 5% black people, and the prison population was exactly representative of that. But suddenly, instead of it being 5% of people in prison were black, and it was 6%. And it's like, oh, look, it's slightly more black people in prison. What exactly do you want to do with that information? Because I would look at that as a big fat lefty and think about, okay, is there a level of over-policing and racism, or is there a level of harsher sentencing, or somebody not being given appeals when they should be, or something like that? But they just want to weaponize it and they just want to use it. They don't actually ever really truly say what they actually want to do with the information. Do you want to do do they not have the balls to say it? What do you want? Re-immigration? Do you want us just to lock down the borders? Like, say what you actually want. Stop just talking about the data. Like, have the balls that you're pretending to have, or have the ovaries you're pretending to have, and everything else in between.
I couldn't have put that better myself. Honestly, it is about protecting the in-group and making sure that they never have to change their mind. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
And Rachel loves a bit of angry cog, by the way.
Yeah, it's annoying, but we're getting through it. And after this, I can just go and live in the woods and never communicate with anybody via a computer or phone ever again.
Is that not what you're doing tonight? I was getting that sort of vibe from your end.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing tonight.
So, Jacqueline, as well, this is a really important part. So they use emotional issues which are harder to think critically about precisely because issues are so emotional. I can't remember his name, but he does like a philosophy podcast, and he's recently been doing a lot of videos on TikTok. But he was talking this morning about, I think it's Piaget, the psychologist. Maybe I'm getting psychologists mixed up, but he was just basically talking about the concept of when somebody is so stuck into an ideology, because the topic was about people not being able to accept facts. It's because you need to almost like think about people who have non-religious ideologies as almost religious, right? You can't just walk up to a Muslim and say, "Oh, God isn't real," because they're not just going to buy that, right? even if you could somehow prove it or disprove it, whatever. It's the same. Like, if somebody thinks genuinely with the level of extremist ideology that they might have, that, you know, Muslims are dangerous or immigrants are dangerous or whatever it might be, simply giving them facts is just not going to change their mind, because it's emotionally attached the way somebody would be as if they were religiously believing in God. You can't make them, there's no intellectual pathway to make them unthink it. It can happen, but generally when people are really stuck into it, you can't really get them out of it. Is that pessimistic? I don't know.
No, I think it's fair, and I think when, you know, it's the, I mean, we saw it with all the rhetoric around the grooming gangs, you know, where they, if you try and talk about any of the other statistics around group-based sexual violence towards children and towards women, that I know the stats have been disputed, but some stats have been reported to show as it's as high as 80-odd%, being white British men. As soon as you start trying to have that conversation, they try and hit you with, oh, so do you not care about the victims of Rotherham? Do you not care about the victims of Rochdale? Do you not care about those little girls? And it's like, yes, of course we do. But you obviously don't, because you're talking about white men, and it wasn't white men, it was Pakistani men that did that. And immediately you're shut down with, you obviously don't care about the victims, because instead of focusing on the race of a small minority, you're trying to look at the bigger picture. You know, and it's like we said earlier, I want to see every sexual predator, every sexual offender thrown into fucking jail, regardless of their race, religion, background, or what country they were born in. We have no place for it in this country, and to focus so much on, and the right have been brilliant with this. They've had a brilliant's maybe not the right word, but they've got a long history. I mean, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, you know, has talked about grooming gangs, and immigrants grooming gangs and Pakistani grooming gangs for a very, very long time, and it's almost an unhealthy obsession. It's like, okay, yeah, it is a problem, and I agree with you. We need to do something about it, but we need to look at the bigger picture as well. The fact that women and girls in the UK are more likely statistically to be sexually assaulted by a friend, a family member, somebody known to them, than they are by a stranger in the street. That should scare the shit out of people. That should be the thing that people are screaming and shouting about. That's the thing that Stephen fucking Yaxley Lennon should be doing documentaries about. The fact that the person who you know, who literally is in the room next to you now, is more likely to assault you than a stranger in the street, whether they're white British or whether they've come here via a small boat.
Well, speaking on the same like emotional level, to do with immigration, but not to do with sex crimes, right? It's been almost a year since Southport, and for anybody who doesn't know, I think it was on the second day after it happened, there were protesters outside of Number 10, and me and Callum just happened to be meeting up, and I saw on social media that there was, you know, a big protest there. So me and Cal was like, let's go and check it out. And when we got there, the one thing that we immediately noticed is that a lot of these, it was mostly men, but not completely. They had massive crates of beer with them. I can't recall actually seeing one single sign of, you know, the children's name or "We want justice" or any
Lots of
pictures.
England flags, though.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Any pictures of the victims, and I even I asked people like, can you even name them? Can you name the three girls? Elsie, Alice, and BB, by the way, just to you know live off my own hypocrisy that I'm trying to pick out to these people. And it was just none of that. They were just there to get pissed. They had massive crates of beer with them, and they were throwing bottles at police officers. There was a good few hundred of them, and that's what pisses me off, because it's not only like irrationally emotional, it is almost like an excuse to be involved in this, just like cult and gang, and it's attached to, you know, when it's attached to the Tom Robinson lot as well, it's more about like football hooliganism and just causing trouble for the sake of it as an excuse. And I'll never forget that, because nobody could name them, the victims, just 2 days after it happened.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens at the end of the month, because the families have asked for no. They don't want like a big public vigil. They don't want like a big, you know, they don't want to do like a big sort of event to sort of mark the occasion. I mean, I don't know how else to word that sentence, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, a memorial.
Yeah, and it, you know, unfortunately, because of the actions that happened following that, that horrific day is always in history now, is always going to be associated with the race riots, the Farage riots that took place afterwards, and I sincerely hope that we don't see a repeat of that as we head further into the summer, with people, using the anniversary as an excuse to go out and kick off again.
Yep. And again, just to finish off the point I was bringing that up, is that they just didn't care about the victims. It was about them, their ideology.
Yeah.
But to Zeke's comment, oh shit, Cog, we have more in common with immigrants than we will ever have to a billionaire. That's a mic drop, and that's an absolute fact.
Yeah, I think I don't feel that he's expanding on. I'm not sure where I first read that, but it's 100% true.
Yeah. You've got more fans in the comments. Cog cooking so hot is breaking the internet. Back over to Jim. If you care about women's safety, go after the biggest group. Absolutely true. And it's not just about going after the biggest group. Everyone should just be gone after, right? It shouldn't even be, and that's the thing. It shouldn't even be about any particular group or perpetrator. It's good to record data to see who is committing these crimes, to see what actions can be done in terms of approaching and tackling crimes within certain groups. That's absolutely true. It does happen in that way in some cases with different crimes, but it's not about being able to single out that group so you can weaponize it. Because guys, let's not pretend that if every other migrant group and non-white person in the country had half the rate of sexual crimes against women and children, and it was actually overwhelmingly white men, let's not pretend that anything could actually be done about it. People aren't letting Epstein go. I bet the majority of men on Epstein's list now non-existent client list were probably rich and white. Absolutely. And I'm pretty sure Donald Trump was one of them too.
I think Elon Musk said as much, did he not, before retracting his statement?
Yeah, let's put the two fascist billionaires at war with each other. One's a ketamine addict and one's an attention whore.
But which one's which?
Emotional support bigotry. Love that. Emotional support
bigotry. That was a good line, to be fair.
I love that so much.
Yeah, I'm going to repeat that.
Yeah, and again, just very simply, weaponizing women's safety actually puts them at more risk. 100% true. And again, it's a time-old used tactic, used in Nazi Germany. It's been used in other places too.
Yeah. Julius Streicher was very, very fond of putting it in Der Stürmer, the magazine, which he ran, which was like for years, particularly during the SA, the Sturmabteilung years of the early Nazi Party. It was all about how Jewish men were going about raping Aryan German girls. That was practically all they spoke about, and they spoke about it in a very kind of pornographic way as well, according to the historian Richard Evans. It is a tried and tested tactic.
If I remember correctly as well, so it's the Srebrenica massacre anniversary today, 30 years. And if I remember correctly, I know someone like Edward is probably really good on any topic related to these, but if I remember correctly, it was Reuters, I might be wrong, who not accidentally, but did some poor reporting on a story about, and again, if I'm getting the facts wrong, anybody can correct me in the comments and I'll shout it out after. But during that genocide, it was reported by Reuters in mainstream media that some Bosniak Muslims killed a bunch of kids. And that was part of triggering the violence and genocide as things were kicking off and heating up. And it turned out just to be completely made up. And it was again the idea of how violence can help perpetrate made up violence, and the weaponization of women and children can contribute towards literal genocide. Just another more modern example. It's not something that's just isolated to Nazi Germany. And I think there was an aspect of it as well in the Rwandan genocide. But I'll check the comments after, because I know somebody will correct me if I'm wrong.
There's always a pretext every single time in genocide, whether it's October 7th in Israel, or whether you're talking about Kristallnacht. So the killing of what was his name? I think it was Ernst von Rath. He was a German diplomat in 1938, in November 1938. Supposedly prompted. He was killed in Paris. I think he was a German diplomat in Paris, and he was killed supposedly by a young 17, 19-year-old Jewish man. And that prompted Kristallnacht, the Night of the Broken Glass, the large Nazi pogrom that sort of marks the beginning of the Holocaust for most Holocaust historians. There's always a pretext that they'll use, and sometimes it's based on like real, genuine violence that should be condemned. I don't think that the German diplomat who was assassinated deserved to be killed any more than I think that a lot of the people who died the civilians, I should say, who died in October 7th deserved to be killed. However, that doesn't come close to justifying a genocide. Not even close in either case. You always have to be careful about violence being used to justify large-scale violence and/or genocide. I'm rambling. Go on, Lewis.
No, it's absolutely right. But again, history will sadly continue to repeat itself.
Do we have any
we'll
more, or are we?
We've still got a few minutes to fill, so let's go for a few little more. As Spec said, and I calmed down on no TikTok newspeak, please. That's when you said, what did you say?
I think I said schmex, didn't I? I went to say schmex rather than sex, because you can't say sex on TikTok.
Yeah, I think this is very relevant though. But somebody made a video the other day on TikTok saying, "I feel they did it way better than I'm about to say it, but like they feel disgusted by the fact that they see people on the app having to use euphemistic baby sounding words to talk about stuff like rape." And she said it really annoyed her because, like, I'm a victim of rape and I should be able to come on this platform and talk about it without the fear of being censored.
I think the really sad thing is that you can, but what happens is as soon as it gets reported, the algorithm automatically assumes that it's violence and it takes it down. You won't be the algorithm itself won't. There's a misconception. A lot of people think that if you use words like that, the algorithm will just flag it and take it down. That isn't the case. However, the second somebody reports it, the algorithm then will pick up on it and then it'll be gone. And there's always going to be some fucking dickhead that comes along and goes, "Oh, you think we should stop assaulting women? Hell no, I'm going to report that content." And then before you know it, it's gone because you said the word rape instead of grape. So yeah, it is shit. And I saw, I don't know if it was the same video I saw or maybe a different video, the same thing, Lewis, but I know a number of people have said the same, and it's not right.
I was talking with some older people the other day about a group of older people about like the NHS app, that whole thing with the NHS app, and it doesn't seem related, but they were like, "Oh yeah, for older people this is horrible, but for younger people it must be really nice." And I was like, I don't think that's actually true. I think a lot of younger people see things like the arbitrary regulation on TikTok and the way that algorithms treat us when there's no like actual person to speak to, and go, no, I'd actually rather that there was a genuine customer support service that I could ring up and go, "Hey, this has gone wrong for me. Can you issue a correction?"
I get so angry. I get so angry. It happened to me today in WH Smith's, where they didn't have a counter anymore. They got rid of the counter and just replaced it with self-serve machines. It does my head in. It puts people out of jobs for a start, but also they're just a pain in the ass. They never work properly. It's the same, like you say, trying to talk to somebody. Give me a real person to talk to any day of the week.
Do you know, but a co-op wouldn't have that problem, because a cooperative, you're never going to like vote to, if you control the company and you're on the staff and you're voting for what happens, you can make your job more efficient by bringing in a self-service machine, but it doesn't mean that you get rid of the person. Therefore, you as a customer are not inconvenienced because there's still an abundance of staff who can come and help you. But also, the staff can like make things more efficient without ending up losing their jobs. Like there's so many things. I think we should start a leftist Luddite organisation. Maybe while Kurt is away, we can just change the channel name. Just turn left into leftist Luddites. And we do away with technology. We'll start doing our lives via like string and cup.
Okay, I was going to say, how are people going to watch? They're going to have to. We'll send a location out via pigeon mail the day before, and they have to come and find us.
Exactly, that's the way it's going to run.
So actually, I found the story, and this is really interesting. Because nobody in the comments actually commented on it, so I wanted to make sure I got the facts right. Because it's almost like not similar, but like somewhat similar thing to what happened with October 7th. Like October 7th, bad things happened, but the babies were not beheaded. That turned out to be false, and there were like sex crimes, but there weren't. And this is the difficult position you get put in. There were sex crimes, but it wasn't as bad as Israel made it out to be, because they wanted to obviously manufacture consent. So this is what happened during like some of the Yugoslav wars. So this was the Vukovar children massacre. So 2 days after the Battle of Vukovar had ended in 20th of November 1991, Reuters reported that 41 Serbian babies had been killed in the city during the battle. The report quoted a freelance photographer in the area who supplied pictures for Reuters, told Reuters and the radio television of Serbia that he had seen and counted the bodies of 41 children between the ages of 5 and 7 slaughtered in the school, and added, and he was told by the Yugoslav army soldiers that the children were Serbs killed by Croatian soldiers. Although Reuters retracted the report a day later, based on his admission that he neither saw or counted the bodies, the news made headlines in Serbia and around the world, where it was used to promote the importance of the defense of the Serbs, which then again added massively to what then turned into an eventual like genocide and wider conflict. But yeah, it just made it, when I first read that a few months ago for the first time, it just immediately reminded me of the beheaded babies thing in Israel, which again, October 7th is not something to celebrate, but it's something to have a new conversation about. But it was just pure propaganda by Israel to manufacture consent. And it's just weird because there are so many patterns in all these genocides that have happened over the years. Anyway, that was a nice and light moment. But Becca put this lovely comment that made me laugh. What a pair of cuties, Cog and Cal. I think that was you coming in and out, I think. Oh, wow.
Just on time. It's like we planned that one. We definitely didn't.
Yeah. But let me just see if we got anything else coming in at the end before we go, because I don't want to shut anything off. Oh yeah, we did actually. Let's wait for Cog to quickly come back in.
We jinxed it. We fucking jinxed it.
Wow. Okay. Well, Rachel, there is no sex in the TikTok yet union. Right, before you chip out again, that is it for the comments today. So thank you very much, guys, and I hope you guys have a good weekend.
Lewis. Really appreciate it. Well, before Cog gets kicked again, I'll take this moment to say thank you to Cog for joining me for at least some of tonight's show.
Thank you. The bit I was here for was lovely. Thanks, Callum.
It's all right. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, Cog. And of course, thank you to all our viewers as well who have tuned in tonight. Just before we go, I'd just like to make you all aware as well, for those of you that, well, I don't think we've announced it actually, but who cares? I'm going to go for it. Next week, I will be interviewing candidates for the deputy leadership role within the Green Party. So if you are a member of the Green Party, if you are thinking of becoming a member of the Green Party before the end of the month to vote in the elections, or if you just have any interest in the Green Party whatsoever and you would like to ask any of them a question, please send us a message or a tweet on Twitter or on Blue Sky, probably the best places to do it, and let us know what it is you would like to know. I can't promise that I'll be able to put everyone's questions. I'm probably going to be spending about 30 minutes with each candidate, but there will be some time to put one or two to the candidates. There are 9 people standing in total for the deputy leadership, and touch wood, we will be interviewing all of them. So yeah, if you've got any questions, get them in. And also, I saw that somebody asked about stories as well. We do have a contact email address, which is just contact@turnleftmedia.co.uk. So if you do have any story ideas or suggestions or anything that you would like us to cover, you can contact us that way, or simply, again, via social media. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Blue Sky, and we're on Twitter as well. So feel free to contact us via those means as well. So not anywhere else, as Lewis might have suggested in my ear. So thank you again for tuning in. Remember to like the stream, and if you're not a subscriber, then hit that button. We are grateful for all your support, and we do have a fantastic community here at Turn Left, and you can be part of it too. So thanks again. If you want to see us grow, you can head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. There's a link there to our Patreon where you can support us monthly, or follow the other link to give us a one-time contribution. Alternatively, you can become a YouTube member for just 99p, or free of charge if you're really lucky and one of our wonderful community members gifts one to you. But that's it from us. Have an amazing weekend. Try and enjoy the weather if you can. It's way too hot, absolutely way too hot, and it's going to get hotter. So stay hydrated, and thank you, all of you. See you again next time.
Support independent media. Support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.